Hello, I'm Emma Wall, and joining me today is Jupiter's Ben Whitmore to talk about Brexit, trade tariffs and other macro risks. Hi, Ben.
Good morning.
So what are your thoughts on Brexit? Because they are very much clouding the UK investors' minds at the moment.
So obviously everyone out there has got a view on Brexit. What I think is the most important thing, though, is as an investor, is to be dispassionate about this. And so there are a lot of economic worries around the world. So there's Brexit for UK investors. There's the global worry, which is the relationship between China and America and trade tariffs. And really what we think the crucial thing here is to be dispassionate and assume the worst case scenario when you're making an investment. So broadly for those two big things, we're assuming that means a recession. And by assuming that, we're looking at the downside without having to take a particular view of what we think a tariff will be or an outcome will be on Brexit. And by having that more dispassionate view on it, I think that's a better way at making investments.
And it can create investment opportunities, can't it? We were talking before the camera started rolling about Japan and how there is sort of almost a contagion, not risk, but idea around trade tariffs. But actually, Japan's quite insulated from it. So presumably, for a professional investor, that creates opportunities.
Yes. So we're trying to sort of reduce the risk the whole time. In some Japanese investments that we have in the global fund, we can buy that business for less than the value of just the cash it has on its balance sheet. And we're thinking to ourselves there, well, if you're buying it for less than that, when you've got a whole business producing cash as well and a whole series of investments, that's not that risky because you're paying such a low price for such a strong balance sheet that we think that's a real opportunity.
What about in the US? Because you have sort of a couple of macro risks there. You have what's going on with Trump and indeed with the Fed, as well as with the potential trade war with China or ongoing trade tariffs war with China. You yourself have sort of less US exposure than some other global funds, but how much do you take those considerations, in before making investment decisions?
I think the main risk we have around America is that valuations are very high. The American economy has been very good, unlike Europe and parts of Asia. The dollar's been very strong as well. And our main risk there is high valuations. High valuations very rarely over history are good for subsequent returns. And that's really our main worry in America.
Sounds like you're saying focus on the fundamentals and less on the politics.
Yeah. The issue I have with the politics is that everyone's got views on them. And I think those views should be parked for chatting in the bar, whatever. But really what we're trying to do is get a portfolio of low valuation securities where they're not dependent on any one particular view on tariffs, politics, Brexit, whatever.
Ben, thank you very much.